The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with representatives from 47 different species. They sat in their designated areas, each section designed to match the atmosphere and gravity of their home worlds. The hall was old. It had seen thousands of years of peace talks, trade agreements, and the occasional declaration of war. But today felt different. Today, the air was thick with tension. Admiral stood at the center of the speaking platform. She was a small woman by human standards, barely reaching the shoulders of most species in the room. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her uniform was simple but clean. She wore no medals, no decorations. She did not need them. Everyone in the room knew who she was. The ambassador sat across from her. His name was, and he was massive. They were a proud warrior race. They stood over 3 meters tall, with thick gray skin and 4 arms that could crush steel. Their empire had conquered 17 star systems in the last century alone. They feared nothing. Looked at the human admiral with barely hidden amusement. He had heard stories about humans. They were newcomers to the galactic stage, having only achieved faster-than-light travel 200 years ago. They had no great military victories. They had no conquered worlds. They simply existed, building their colonies and trading with whoever would speak to them. "You called this meeting," said. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "So speak, human. Tell us why we should care about your complaints." Did not react to his tone. Her face remained calm, almost peaceful. She pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. A holographic image appeared above it, showing a planet covered in green forests and blue oceans. "This is New Haven," said. It was a human colony of 300,000 people. Farmers, teachers, children. They had no weapons. They had no military base. They were simply trying to build a life. The image changed. Now it showed burning buildings and bodies in the streets. Warships hung in the sky above the destruction. "3 weeks ago, your forces attacked this colony," continued. "They killed 42,000 civilians. They took another 15,000 as slaves. The rest escaped only because a passing merchant ship sent a distress signal." Waved one of his massive hands dismissively. "Those were not my orders. A regional commander saw an opportunity and took it. Your colony was weak and undefended. In the Empire, weakness is an invitation." "An invitation," repeated the word slowly. 42,000 dead, and you call it an invitation. "The strong take from the weak. This is the natural order of the universe." Leaned forward, his yellow eyes fixed on the human. "Your species builds farms and schools while real civilizations build warships. What did you expect would happen?" The representatives from other species shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Many of them had dealt with the before. They knew how these conversations went. They took what they wanted, and everyone else learned to stay out of their way. But did not look afraid. She did not look angry. She simply looked at with an expression that was impossible to read. "I am here to deliver a warning," she said. "Not a request, not a negotiation, a warning." Laughed. The sound echoed through the great hall like thunder. "A warning from humans." He turned to look at the other representatives. "Do you hear this? The farmers want to warn the Empire." Several of the delegation joined in the laughter, but waited. She stood perfectly still until the noise died down. "The human government has authorized me to deliver the following message," she said. "Return our people. Pay compensation for the dead. Surrender the commander responsible for the attack. You have 30 standard days to comply." "Or what?" asked, still smiling. "What will you do if we refuse? Send your merchant ships to fight our battle fleets. Attack us with farming equipment." "That is not something you want to find out." The smile faded slightly from his face. There was something in the human's voice that he did not expect. No fear, no anger, just a cold, flat certainty that made him pause. "You cannot threaten us," he said. "The Empire has the largest military force in this sector. We have conquered species far more powerful than yours. Your entire civilization could be erased in a matter of weeks. Nodded slowly. Yes, you could attack us. You could destroy our colonies, our stations, our ships. You have the numbers and the firepower. She paused. But I wonder if you have considered what would happen next. Next, there would be no next. Humanity would be finished. Would it? Eyes met his. You have studied our history, yes. You know where we come from. Shifted in his seat. Of course he knew. Every species knew the story of Earth. A single planet, crowded and polluted, where humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other before finally reaching the stars. It was a common joke among the older civilizations. Humans had nearly destroyed themselves before they even left their home world. I know you are violent, said. I know you spent your early history killing each other over patches of dirt and imaginary gods, but that changes nothing. Violence means nothing without power. You misunderstand, said. We did not almost destroy ourselves because we were weak. We almost destroyed ourselves because we could not stop fighting. War is in our blood. It is in our bones. For 10,000 years, we perfected the art of killing our own kind. The weapons we created, the strategies we developed, the absolute commitment to victory at any cost. You think you understand war because you have conquered a few peaceful civilizations. You have no idea what war really means. The hall had gone completely silent. Every representative was watching the exchange with growing unease. His eyes narrowed. You are bluffing, your fleet is small, your weapons are outdated, we have scanned your ships, there is nothing special about them. Yes, agreed. The ships you have scanned, the weapons you have seen, you are correct, they are nothing special. She let the words hang in the air. A representative from the Federation stood up. He was a tall, thin being with silver skin and large black eyes. They were known for their wisdom and their caution. Admiral, he said, what exactly are you suggesting? Are you saying that humanity has hidden military capabilities? I am saying nothing, replied. I am simply asking the Empire to return our people, compensate our dead, and surrender a war criminal. These are reasonable requests. Any civilized species would agree. And if we refuse, demanded, what then? More empty threats? Picked up her device and turned off the hologram. She placed it back in her pocket and looked at one final time. Ambassador, I have served humanity for 43 years. I have seen things that would break most minds. I have given orders that keep me awake at night, but I have never lied to an enemy. She stepped closer to the delegation. If you refuse our terms, there will be consequences, not sanctions, not diplomatic protests, consequences that your empire will not survive. You dare threaten the, rose to his full height, towering over the human woman. One word from me and your entire species becomes a target. Did not step back. She did not flinch. She looked up at the massive alien and spoke in a voice that carried across the entire hall. Then say the word, but remember this moment. Remember that we warned you. Remember that we gave you a choice. She turned and began walking toward the exit. 30 days, Ambassador. After that, whatever happens is on your hands. She walked out of the great hall without looking back. Stood there surrounded by his delegation, watching her leave. His second-in-command, a veteran named, leaned closer. Should we take this seriously? Asked quietly. The humans have never shown any real military strength. Shook his head. They are bluffing, they have to be. No species hides an entire military from the galaxy. It is impossible. But her eyes said, she was not afraid, not even a little. Because she is a fool. Humans are emotional creatures. They think bravery can replace power. Sat back down. Ignore her warnings. We will continue as planned. In fact, send word to our forward fleets. Tell them to accelerate the timeline. I want another human colony attacked within the week. As you command. As the delegation filed out of the hall, the other representatives remained in their seats. The ambassador turned to his colleague, a small furry creature from the collective. What do you think? He asked. Was she bluffing? The representative shook his head slowly. "I have been alive for 300 years. I have seen many species make threats they could not back up, but that human was not making a threat. She was making a promise." "Then they are walking into a trap." "Perhaps, or perhaps the humans are simply desperate." The paused. "Either way, I think we should increase the distance between our territories and human space, just to be safe." "Agreed." Across the galaxy, Admiral returned to her ship. She walked through the corridors in silence, her crew stepping aside as she passed. When she reached her private quarters, she sealed the door and sat down at her desk. A communication screen flickered to life. On it was the face of General, the commander of humanity's defense forces. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. "How did it go?" he asked. "As expected, they refused. They think we are weak." Nodded slowly. "Then we proceed to the next phase." "Yes." Looked at a photograph on her desk. It showed a young woman holding a baby, standing in front of a small house surrounded by green fields. The photograph was from New Haven. The woman and baby were among the 42,000 dead. "Wake them up," said. "Wake all of them up. It is time to show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of." The screen went dark. In the silence of her quarters, Admiral allowed herself one moment of grief. Then she stood up, straightened her uniform, and prepared for war. The Empire had made their choice. Now they would live with the consequences, or more accurately, they would die with them. Commander stood on the observation deck of the cargo station orbiting Earth's agricultural moon, Harvest. He was watching his daughter play in the garden dome below. She was 7 years old, with her mother's smile and his stubborn nature. Her name was, and she was the center of his entire universe. "Daddy," her voice came through the communication device on his wrist. "Look, the tomatoes are ready." Smiled. "I can see them. They look beautiful. Save one for me." "I will. Mommy says dinner will be ready soon. Are you coming down?" "In a few minutes. I just need to finish some work." He watched her run back to the greenhouse where his wife was waiting. They had moved to Harvest 3 years ago, leaving behind the crowded cities of Earth for a simpler life. The moon was peaceful. It grew food for 12 different colonies, and the people who lived there were farmers, scientists, and families looking for a quiet place to raise their children. Had been a military officer once. He had served on warships and seen combat against pirates and smugglers, but those days were behind him. Now he managed the station's security, which mostly meant checking cargo manifests and breaking up the occasional argument between traders. His communication device beeped. It was a message from his second-in-command, a young woman named. "Sir, we are picking up some strange readings at the edge of the system. Multiple ships moving fast." "What kind of ships?" "Unknown configuration. They are not responding to our hails." Felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He had been a soldier long enough to know when something was wrong. "How many ships?" "At least 50. Maybe more, sir. They are heading directly toward Harvest." He was already running toward the command center. "Sound the alert. Get everyone to the shelters. Contact Earth and request immediate military support." "Sir, at their current speed, they will reach us in less than 2 hours." 2 hours. Earth's closest patrol ships were at least 6 hours away. The station had defensive turrets, but they were designed to stop smugglers, not a full military fleet. Reached the command center just as the first visual confirmation came through. The ships were dozens of massive warships, their hulls covered in weapons and armor. They moved through space like predators closing in on wounded prey. "This is Commander of Harvest Station to approaching fleet," he broadcast on all channels. "You are entering protected human territory. Please state your intentions." The response came after a long pause. An officer appeared on the screen. His face was, and his eyes were filled with cruel amusement. "Human, I am Fleet Commander. Your species has insulted the Empire. Our leaders have decided that you need to learn a lesson about respect. We have thousands of civilians here, families, children. This is not a military target. We know, that is why we chose it, smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Your admiral made threats against our empire. Now your people will pay the price for her arrogance. Every human you lose will be a message to your government. Surrender is not an option, only suffering. The transmission ended. Turned to his staff. How many people can we fit in the emergency shelters? Maybe 5,000, but there are over 20,000 people on the moon. Then we need to buy them time. Get everyone moving toward the deep shelters. Launch every transport we have. Anyone who can fly needs to be in the air now. The next 2 hours were chaos. Watched the fleet approach while his people scrambled to evacuate. Transports launched from every dock, carrying as many people as they could hold. Families grabbed what they could carry and ran through the corridors toward the underground shelters. But it was not enough. It was never going to be enough. The ships opened fire while they were still thousands of kilometers away. Their weapons tore through the station's shields in seconds. Explosions ripped through the docking bays and power plants. The artificial gravity failed in some sections, sending people floating helplessly into the vacuum of space. Stayed at his post, directing evacuations and coordinating what little defense they had. The station's turrets fired back at the ships, but their weapons were like throwing stones at a mountain. The enemy did not even slow down. "Sir, we have confirmed hits on the garden domes," reported, her voice shaking. "The entire agricultural sector is gone." The garden domes, where his daughter had been playing, where his wife had been preparing dinner. Felt something break inside him, but he did not stop. He could not stop. There were still people who needed his help. "Keep evacuating. Get everyone you can to the deep shelters. I am going to try something." He ran to the emergency shuttle bay. There was one ship left, a small patrol craft with basic weapons. He launched it directly toward the flagship, broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Commander. I am requesting a ceasefire to discuss terms. I repeat, I am requesting a ceasefire." Fleet Commander appeared on his screen again, laughing. "You want to negotiate, now, after we have already destroyed your station. These are innocent people. Whatever your quarrel is with our government, they have done nothing wrong." "Innocent? No one is innocent. Your species threatened our empire. Every human shares the guilt. Every human will share the punishment." "Then at least let the children go. Take me, take the adults, but let the children leave." Considered this for a moment, then he shook his head. "No, the children will grow up to become soldiers. Better to kill them now." He made a gesture to someone off-screen. "Destroy his shuttle, then finish the moon." Shuttle was hit by a beam of energy that vaporized the front half of the ship. He had just enough time to think of Smile before everything went dark. On the surface of Harvest, the ground troops landed. They marched through the burning ruins, killing anyone they found. Some humans tried to fight back with farming tools and kitchen knives. They were cut down without mercy. The attack lasted 4 hours. When it was over, 18,000 humans were dead. Another 2,000 were captured and taken as slaves. The rest, barely 3,000 people, had managed to hide in the deepest shelters until they finally left. The news reached Earth within hours. Video footage from surviving cameras showed the destruction in terrible detail. Bodies floating in space. Children crying for parents who would never answer. The burning fields of the agricultural domes, where enough food to feed millions had been reduced to ash. The human government held an emergency session. Leaders argued about what to do. Some called for immediate retaliation. Others urged caution, pointing out that humanity's visible military forces were no match for the empire. But among the people there was no debate. They watched the footage in silence. They saw the faces of the dead. They heard the final transmission from Commander, a father begging for mercy that never came. Something changed in the human spirit that day. The fear that many had felt toward them was replaced by something else, something cold and patient and absolutely merciless. Admiral watched the footage in her quarters. She had known. They had served together years ago before he left the military to raise his family. He had been a good man, a kind man, the kind of man who believed that violence was always the last resort. Her communication screen activated. It was General. "The Council has made their decision," he said. "We are authorized to proceed." "What about the diplomatic concerns, the other species?" "The Galactic Council has issued a formal condemnation of the attack. They have also made it clear that they will not interfere in whatever happens next." His voice was flat. "They are afraid of us. They have been afraid since before we even left Earth. Now they want to see what we will do. Then let us show them." She ended the transmission and walked to the bridge of her ship. Her crew was waiting, silent and grim. They had all seen the footage. They all knew people who had lived on Harvest. "Set a course for the quiet zone," ordered. "It is time to wake up the sleepers." The ship turned and accelerated toward a region of space that no one had visited in over a century. The quiet zone was officially classified as a navigation hazard, filled with asteroid fields and unstable gravity wells. Every species knew to avoid it. But the quiet zone was not a navigation hazard. It was a secret, the greatest secret humanity had ever kept. For 200 years, while humans built farms and schools and trading posts, they had also been preparing for this day. They had built ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They had developed weapons that could crack planets and tear apart fleets. They had trained soldiers who knew nothing but war. All of it had been hidden away, waiting for the moment when humanity truly needed it. That moment had arrived. The Galactic Council watched and waited. The ambassador sent a message to his government, warning them to prepare for something unprecedented. The collective began evacuating their border systems, just in case. And across human space, in military bases that did not officially exist, soldiers received their orders. 3 days after the Harvest Massacre, humanity went silent. No broadcasts, no communications, no diplomatic messages. Every human ship in the galaxy returned to their home systems. Every embassy closed its doors. The Empire celebrated. They believed they had broken human will. They believed the farmers and traders had finally learned their place. They were wrong. In the darkness of space, something was waking up, something that had waited a very long time, something that had no mercy left to give. They had wanted to teach humanity a lesson about power. They were about to learn that some lessons come with a price too terrible to imagine. The silence lasted 3 days. Then the stars began to burn. Captain Menu had served in humanity's secret fleet for 23 years. He had spent most of that time waiting, training, preparing for a war that everyone hoped would never come. Now that war had arrived, and he found himself standing on the bridge of the battleship Vengeance, watching the quiet zone come alive around him. The quiet zone was not empty. It was full of ships, hundreds of them, thousands of them, warships that made the fleet look like toys. They had been built in secret factories hidden inside asteroids and dead moons. They had been crewed by soldiers who lived their entire lives in the darkness of space, never setting foot on any world. These were not the merchant ships and cargo freighters that the galaxy knew. These were weapons of absolute destruction. "How many do we have?" Lieutenant asked from her station. She was young, barely 30, but she had been born in the quiet zone. She had never known anything except the fleet. In this sector alone, 400 battleships, 2,000 destroyers, 800 carriers with over 50,000 strike fighters. Menu pulled up the full fleet roster. Across all 12 hidden bases, we have approximately 6,000 capital ships and supporting craft. Stared at the numbers. Even for someone who had grown up with the fleet, the scale was hard to understand. They have maybe 800 warships total, she said quietly. We outnumber them 7-1. 8-1 once the reserve fleet finishes activation. Minyu watched as more ships powered up across the asteroid field. Lights flickered to life on vessels that had been dark for decades. Engines that had never been tested in combat roared to life. Captain, the communications officer, a serious man named, looked up from his station. We are receiving a priority message from Admiral, fleet-wide broadcast. Put it through. His face appeared on every screen in the fleet. She looked older than she had at the Galactic Council meeting. The lines around her eyes had deepened, but her voice was steady and strong. Soldiers of humanity, you have trained your entire lives for this moment. You have sacrificed everything. You have lived in secret, hidden from a galaxy that does not know you exist. Today, that changes. She paused, letting her words sink in. 3 days ago, the Empire attacked our people. They killed 18,000 civilians on Harvest Moon. Children, parents, people who had done nothing except try to live peaceful lives. They did this because they believed we were weak. They believed we would not fight back. They believed wrong. The footage from Harvest played across every screen. The burning domes, the floating bodies, Commander's last transmission. We gave them a warning. We gave them a chance to make things right. They responded with slaughter. Now there are no more warnings, no more chances. From this moment forward, the Empire exists on borrowed time. Minyu felt the anger rising in his chest. He had seen the footage 100 times, but it still hurt. It was supposed to hurt. That was the point. I'm not going to lie to you, continued. What we are about to do will be terrible. We will kill millions. We will destroy worlds. We will become the monsters that the galaxy has always feared we might be. Some of you will not survive. Some of you will wish you had not survived. But we do this so that no one will ever dare attack humanity again. We do this so that our children can live without fear. She straightened her shoulders. Fleet Command has issued the following orders. All strike groups will proceed to designated targets across territory. We will destroy their military installations, their shipyards, their communication networks. We will cut them off from each other and from the rest of the galaxy. And then we will hunt them down, system by system, until there is nothing left. This is not a war of conquest. We do not want their worlds. We do not want their resources. We want only one thing. We want them to understand that there are consequences for what they have done. We want the entire galaxy to understand. His expression hardened. The activation code is Burning Sky. All ships begin operations immediately. May whatever gods you believe in have mercy on our souls, because we will have no mercy for our enemies. The transmission ended. For a moment, there was silence on the bridge of the Vengeance. Then Minyu turned to his crew. You heard the Admiral. All hands to battle stations. Navigation, set course for the forward base at station. Weapons, begin charging all primary batteries. Coordinate with the other ships in our strike group. We jump in 15 minutes. The bridge exploded into activity. Officers called out status reports. Systems that had been dormant for years came online. The ship itself seemed to wake up, vibrating with power that had been stored for this exact moment. Worked at her station, her fingers flying across the controls. I am connecting with Strike Group 7. We have 42 battleships, 120 destroyers and 60 carriers. Fighter squadrons are standing by. What about the station defenses? Intelligence says they have about 30 ships and a defensive platform. Standard garrison. She looked up. They have no idea we are coming. Minyu nodded. They will know soon enough. Across the quiet zone, similar scenes played out on thousands of ships. Captains gave orders. Crews prepared for battle. The hidden fleet of humanity moved like a single massive organism, spreading out toward targets that had been planned years in advance. The first jump took them to the edge of space. Minyu watched through the viewport as stars stretched into lines of light, then snapped back to normal. Ahead of them, the system appeared, a red star surrounded by 7 planets. The station orbited the 4th planet, a gas giant with beautiful rings. "Contact," reported. "Patrol ships have detected us. They are sending a challenge. Let them see us, all of us." The full strike group emerged from their jump points in perfect formation. Over 200 warships, appearing out of nowhere around a station that had never seen more than a dozen enemies at once. The response was immediate panic. Ships scrambled to launch. The station's weapons began charging. Communication channels filled with confused shouting as officers tried to understand what was happening. "They are hailing us," said. On screen, a commander appeared, his face showing clear shock. "Human vessels, this is commander of station. Where did you come from? We have no record of any human military fleet in this region." Minyu stood and faced the screen. "Commander, I am Captain Minyu of the human warship Vengeance. 3 days ago, your empire attacked our people. 18,000 civilians were killed. Your leaders refused our demands for justice. This is our response. You cannot attack us. You have no authority. The Galactic Council will condemn you." "The Galactic Council can do whatever they want. We are not here to negotiate. We are here to destroy your station and every ship in this system." Shock turned to anger. "You are insane. Even if you destroy us, the Empire will crush you. We have hundreds of ships. We have conquered dozens of species." "You have conquered species that did not know how to fight back." Minyu's voice was cold. "We are not those species. We have spent 200 years preparing for this war. You just did not know it." He turned to his weapons officer. "Open fire." The battle lasted 12 minutes. They fought bravely. Their ships charged directly at the human fleet, weapons blazing. Their station launched missiles and energy beams that would have destroyed any normal enemy. But the human ships were not normal. Their shields absorbed punishment that would have vaporized lesser vessels. Their weapons cut through armor like it was made of paper. Fighter squadrons swarmed around the enemy, picking off escape pods and rescue craft. When it was over, station was a field of burning debris. Every ship had been destroyed. The human fleet had lost 2 destroyers and 17 fighters. Reported the results to Fleet Command. Within minutes, similar reports began coming in from across space. Strike Group 3 had destroyed the shipyards at. Strike Group 12 had eliminated the communications hub at Vex Prime. Strike Group 8 had caught a battle fleet in transit and annihilated them without losing a single ship. The Empire was being torn apart from every direction at once. Their military networks collapsed. Their commanders lost contact with each other. Their carefully built defenses crumbled against an enemy they had never known existed. On the Emperor received report after report of disasters. He stood in his throne room, surrounded by his advisors, watching the destruction of everything his ancestors had built. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Where did these ships come from?" "We do not know, Your Majesty. There is no record of any human military buildup. Our spies reported nothing. Our scans showed nothing. It is as if they appeared from nowhere." "Then find out. Contact our allies. Request assistance from the Galactic Council." An advisor stepped forward nervously. "Your Majesty, we have tried. The Council has declared neutrality. Our former allies are refusing to take our calls. The ambassador sent a message saying..." He hesitated. "Saying what?" "Saying that we should have listened when the humans warned us." Through his communication device across the room, it shattered against the wall. "We are the Empire. We have conquered half this sector. We do not lose to farmers and traders." But even as he raged, more reports came in. Human ships had been spotted approaching the outer colonies. The defensive fleet had been destroyed in less than an hour. The humans were coming, and there was nothing that could stop them. Across the galaxy, other species watched the destruction with a mixture of horror and fascination. The humans they had dismissed as weak newcomers were systematically dismantling one of the most powerful empires in the sector, and they were doing it with terrifying efficiency. The ambassador sent a private message to his government. It said simply, "We were right to be afraid." The war was only beginning, and already the outcome was clear. They had awakened something that should have been left sleeping. Now they would pay the price. And the price would be everything they had. General stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity as it approached Behind him, the largest fleet ever assembled by humanity filled the space between stars. Over 2,000 warships, moving in perfect coordination toward the heart of the enemy empire. It had been 31 days since the war began. In that time, the empire had lost everything except and a handful of colony planets. Their great military, which had conquered 17 star systems, had been reduced to scattered survivors hiding in asteroid fields and abandoned stations. Now humanity had come to finish what they had started. "General," his aide reported, "ground forces are ready for deployment. General requests permission to begin the landing operation." "Tell him to proceed. I want our people on that planet within the hour." The landing craft launched from dozens of carriers, streaking toward the planet's surface like metal rain. Each craft carried 50 soldiers, men and women who had trained their entire lives for ground combat. They wore powered armor that made them stronger and faster than any natural creature. They carried weapons that could level buildings with a single shot. Sargent was on the first wave. She had volunteered for the assault team specifically because of what they had done to Harvest. Her younger brother had lived there with his family. Now he was gone, along with his wife and their 2 children. 30 seconds to landing, the pilot announced. "Enemy anti-aircraft fire is light. They did not expect us to get this close." Checked her weapon one more time. Around her, the soldiers of her squad sat in tense silence. Some of them were praying. Some of them were thinking about the families they had lost. All of them were ready to fight. The landing craft hit the ground hard. The doors opened and led her squad into the chaos of battle. There was a harsh place. The sky was gray and heavy with clouds. The buildings were massive structures of black stone and metal designed to show the power of the empire. But now many of those buildings were burning, hit by orbital strikes that had softened the defenses before the ground assault. Soldiers met them at the landing zone. They were huge, standing head and shoulders above the humans, with 4 arms and thick armor that could stop most weapons. But the humans were not using most weapons. Rifle-fired bolts of superheated plasma that punched through armor like it was cloth. Her squad moved in perfect coordination, covering each other as they advanced through the streets. When a soldier charged at her, she dropped him with 3 shots to the chest before he could take 2 steps. "First objective secure," she reported through her communicator, moving to the slave compounds. This was the part of the mission that mattered most to her. Intelligence had confirmed that thousands of human captives were being held in labor camps across the planet. These were the survivors of Harvest and other attacks, people who had been taken as slaves and forced to work in factories and mines. Squad reached the first compound in less than an hour. The guards had fled when they saw the human forces approaching. The gates were locked, but a few shots from a heavy weapon took care of that. Inside, she found hundreds of humans in terrible condition. They were thin and weak, covered in bruises and scars. Many of them could barely stand. They looked at the soldiers with expressions of disbelief. "You came," an older man said, tears running down his face. "You actually came for us." "We never abandoned you," said. "We just needed time to prepare." She turned to her squad. "Get these people to the evacuation point. Medical teams are standing by. As her soldiers helped the freed captives, noticed a young woman sitting alone in the corner. She was holding something small in her hands, rocking back and forth slowly. Walked over to her. "Are you hurt? Can you walk?" The woman looked up. Her eyes were empty, like someone who had seen too much horror to process anymore. "They killed her," she whispered. "My daughter. She was only 3 years old. She would not stop crying, so they killed her." Felt her heart crack. She knelt down beside the woman and put a hand on her shoulder. "I am sorry. I am so sorry we did not come sooner." "Will you make them pay? Will you make them all pay?" Nodded slowly, every single one of them. The liberation of the slave compounds continued across the planet. Human soldiers found thousands of their people in various stages of abuse and starvation. They also found evidence of even worse crimes. Mass graves filled with bodies, medical facilities where humans had been used for experiments, breeding farms where women had been forced to produce more slaves. Each discovery made the soldiers angrier. Each horror they uncovered strengthened their resolve. By the time they reached the capital city, there was no mercy left in any of them. The capital was defended by the last of the military. They had dug in around the imperial palace, determined to protect their emperor until the very end. For 3 days, they fought against the human advance, using every weapon and every trick they knew. But it was not enough. Nothing was enough. General watched the final assault from orbit. Human tanks smashed through the palace gates. Soldiers cleared the building room by room, killing anyone who resisted. The famous golden halls of the emperors were filled with smoke and blood. Finally, they reached the throne room. Emperor was waiting for them. He sat on his throne, wearing his full ceremonial armor, surrounded by his last loyal guards. He was old, even by standards. He had ruled the empire for over 200 years. He had seen it grow from a single planet to a mighty force that controlled entire star systems. Now he was watching it die. "So," he said as the human soldiers entered, "the farmers have come to claim their revenge." General walked through the crowd of soldiers. He was shorter than the emperor, older but there was something in his eyes that made even uncomfortable. "You should have listened," said. "We warned you. We gave you every chance to avoid this. You threatened us. We are the no one threatens the. And now look at what your pride has cost you," gestured at the burning city outside the windows. "Your empire is gone. Your military is destroyed. Your people are defeated, all because you thought we were weak." Stood from his throne. Even in defeat, he was still a proud warrior. "If you are going to kill me, then kill me. I will not beg for mercy from humans." "Kill you?" shook his head. "No, death would be too easy, too quick." He pulled out a communication device. "We have something else planned for you." The device projected a holographic image. It showed a courtroom filled with representatives from every major species in the galaxy. The Galactic Council had agreed to hold a war crimes tribunal, something that had not happened in over 1,000 years. "You will stand trial," said. "The entire galaxy will see the evidence of what you did, the slave camps, the mass graves, the murdered children. Everyone will know what the Empire really was." For the first time, real fear appeared in his eyes. Death in battle was honorable, but being put on display, being humiliated in front of the entire galaxy, that was worse than anything he could imagine. "You cannot do this. I am an emperor. I have rights under galactic law." "You gave up those rights when you ordered the attack on Harvest." Turned to his soldiers. "Take him. Make sure he survives the trip. He has a very important appointment to keep." The soldiers dragged away, ignoring his protests and his demands. The last emperor of the empire was reduced to just another prisoner. Outside, the fighting was winding down. Across the planet, forces were surrendering in large numbers. They had seen what happened to those who resisted. They had heard about the complete destruction of their fleet. They knew there was no hope left. Sargent stood in the ruins of what had once been a slave market. Bodies lay around her, soldiers who had tried to kill the captives rather than let them be freed. She had stopped them just in time, saving over 200 people who would have been murdered. One of the freed slaves approached her. It was a young man, barely more than a teenager. His face was, and he walked with a limp that spoke of past beatings. "What happens now?" he asked. "Is it really over?" Looked at the gray sky, where human ships were visible as tiny points of light. "The war is almost over," she said, "but the healing will take a long time, years, maybe longer." She turned to face him. "You will be taken care of. We have medical ships waiting, people who will help you adjust. It will not be easy, but you are going home." Home. The word seemed strange to him, like something from a dream he had almost forgotten. "I do not even remember what home looks like." "Then you will learn again. We all will," put a hand on his shoulder. "They took a lot from us, but they did not take everything. They did not break us, and now they never will." Above the planet, General sent a message to Admiral. It was short and simple. "The capital has fallen. The Emperor is in custody. Resistance is collapsing across all remaining territories. The war is effectively over." Received the message in her quarters on the flagship. She read it twice, then set down her communication device and looked out the window at the stars. They had won. After everything, they had won. But victory felt hollow. Too many people had died. Too many families had been destroyed. The cost of this war would be felt for generations. She picked up the photograph from her desk. The young woman with the baby. The photograph from New Haven that she had kept with her throughout the campaign. "We got them," she whispered to the photograph. "Every single one of them. I hope that means something." The stars continued to burn in the darkness. And somewhere out there, the rest of the galaxy was watching, waiting to see what humanity would do next. The war lasted 47 days. In that time, humanity destroyed 312 warships, captured 94 more, and reduced an empire that had taken centuries to build into scattered ruins. The loss there, their colonies, their military, and their pride. Their population, which had once numbered in the billions, was reduced to a few 100 million survivors scattered across refugee camps and occupied territories. It was the most complete military victory in galactic history. Admiral stood before the Galactic Council one final time. The Great Hall was even more crowded than before. Representatives from every known species had come to hear what the humans would say. Some came out of curiosity. Others came out of fear. All of them wanted to understand what had just happened. The ambassador spoke first. "Admiral, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I must ask, what do you intend to do with the territory?" "Nothing," said. The single word caused murmurs throughout the hall. "We do not want their worlds. We do not want their resources. We have no interest in building an empire." "Then why did you fight? Why destroy them so completely?" Walked to the center of the speaking platform. She looked older than she had 47 days ago. The weight of what she had done was visible in every line on her face. "We fought because we had no choice. They attacked our people, they killed our civilians, they enslaved our families. When we asked for justice, they laughed at us. When we warned them of consequences, they attacked again." She paused. "We did not start this war, but we finished it." A representative from the syndicate stood up. They were a species known for their aggressive trading practices and their willingness to take advantage of weaker civilizations. "And what happens to the rest of us? Should we be afraid that humanity will decide we have done something wrong and destroy us too?" "That depends entirely on you." His voice was calm but firm. "We have no quarrel with any species that treats us with respect, trade with us fairly, deal with us honestly. Do not attack our people. If you follow these simple rules, you have nothing to fear from humanity." "And if we do not?" Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then I suggest you look at what remains of the empire and ask yourself if the risk is worth it." The representative sat down quickly. The trial of Emperor began 3 days later. It was broadcast across the galaxy, translated into thousands of languages, watched by trillions of beings. For weeks, witnesses about the crimes of the Empire. Freed slaves described their treatment. Soldiers showed evidence from the mass graves and experiment facilities. Diplomats revealed secret communications ordering the attacks on human colonies. Through it all sat in silence. He did not deny the accusations. He did not express regret. He simply stared at the floor, broken and defeated. The verdict was unanimous, guilty on all charges. The sentence was life imprisonment in a facility designed by humans, where he would spend the rest of his existence thinking about what he had done. Some species questioned whether this was enough. They thought should have been executed for his crimes. But Admiral explained humanity's reasoning in a private meeting with the Council. Death is an escape. It ends the suffering. We want to live a long life. We want him to wake up every morning and remember that he destroyed his own empire through his arrogance. We want him to know that his name will be remembered throughout history as a warning to others. The ambassador nodded slowly. You are more cruel than we imagined. We are exactly as cruel as we need to be, no more, no less. In the months that followed, humanity began the long process of rebuilding. The survivors of harvest and other attacks received medical care and counseling. New colonies were established to replace those that had been destroyed. The hidden fleet was partially revealed to the galaxy, though experts suspected that humans had kept some secrets in reserve. Life returned to something like normal. Farmers went back to their fields. Traders resumed their routes. Children played in parks and went to schools, never knowing how close humanity had come to destruction. But things had changed. The galaxy looked at humans differently now. Species that had once dismissed them as weak newcomers now treated them with careful respect. Trade agreements that had been unfavorable were renegotiated. Diplomatic insults that had been common disappeared entirely. No one wanted to be the next empire. Admiral retired from military service 1 year after the war ended. She had given enough of her life to death and destruction. Now she wanted peace. She chose to live on a small colony world, far from Earth and far from the rebuilt military bases. Her home was a simple house near the ocean, where she could watch the waves and try to forget the things she had done. Captain Minu visited her sometimes. He had been promoted to admiral himself, taking over command of the hidden fleet. But he never forgot the woman who had led them through the darkest days of human history. The council has asked me to speak at a memorial ceremony, he told her during one visit. They want to honor the victims of the attacks. Nodded, that is good. They should be remembered. They also want to honor you for leading the war, for bringing victory. She shook her head slowly. I do not want to be honored. I did what had to be done. That is all. You saved humanity. I also killed millions of their soldiers, their civilians, their children. Looked out at the ocean. I told myself it was necessary. I told myself they gave us no choice. Maybe that is true, but it does not make the weight any lighter. Minu sat down beside her. If you had not done it, someone else would have had to. Though we're never going to stop. They would have kept attacking us until we were destroyed or until we fought back. I know, that is what makes it so hard. There was no good answer, just a less terrible one. They sat in silence for a while, watching the waves roll in. What do you think happens now? Minu asked finally. Do you think we will have peace? For a while, maybe a long while. The galaxy is afraid of us now. They will leave us alone as long as that fear lasts, sighed. But eventually, they will forget. A new generation will grow up without remembering the war. Some ambitious species will decide to test us again, and we will have to teach them the same lesson we taught them. That is a dark view of the future. It is a realistic view. She turned to face him. Humans have always been good at war, Minu, too good. We spent thousands of years fighting each other before we ever reached the stars. That violence is part of who we are. The best we can do is control it, channel it toward those who deserve it, use it to protect the people we love, and hope we never have to use it again. Yes, hope, she smiled sadly. Hope is the most human thing of all. Far away, on the other side of the galaxy, the Galactic Council was holding a session to discuss the future of relations. The topic was simple: how to prevent another war like the one with The ambassador proposed a new treaty. All species would agree to resolve disputes through diplomacy. Military action would only be permitted in self-defense. Aggression against civilians would be punished by the combined forces of the Council. It was a good idea. Many species supported it, but everyone knew that it was not really about creating a fair system. It was about making sure no one ever provoked the humans again. Because the humans had proven something that the galaxy would never forget. They were not weak. They were not peaceful. They were not the harmless farmers and traders that everyone had assumed. They were predators who had learned to pretend they were prey. They had hidden their true strength for 200 years, waiting for the moment when they would need it. And when that moment came, they had unleashed destruction on a scale that made even the oldest species shudder. The message had been received. The lesson had been learned. Admiral's final broadcast played on screens across the galaxy as the Council discussed the new treaty. It was a recording made on the day the war ended, transmitted from the bridge of her flagship as human forces completed their occupation of space. To all species of the Galactic Council, to all civilizations watching this broadcast, we asked for peace. We built our colonies and our farms. We traded fairly and treated others with respect. We wanted nothing more than to live quietly among the stars. Her voice was tired but strong. The Empire saw our peace as weakness. They killed our people. They enslaved our families. They laughed at our warnings. They believed we would not fight back. A pause. They were wrong, and now they are gone. Their empire, which stood for thousands of years, fell in 47 days. Their emperor, who once commanded billions, sits alone in a cell. Their great military, which conquered 17 star systems, exists only in history books. Her eyes seemed to look directly through the screen, into the souls of everyone watching. Remember this. Remember what happens when peace is refused. Remember that humanity asked nicely first. Remember that we gave every chance to avoid this outcome. Another pause, longer this time. We do not want enemies. We do not seek conquest. But if anyone threatens our people again, if anyone mistakes our kindness for weakness, they will learn the same lesson they learned. And the galaxy will remember their name the way it remembers as a warning. The recording ended. In the council chamber, the treaty was approved unanimously. Every species signed it without objection. For the first time in galactic history, there was a genuine consensus on how to maintain peace. And at the center of that peace, like a sleeping dragon, humanity continued to build its farms and schools and trading posts. They smiled at their neighbors. They raised their children. They lived their lives. But deep in the quiet zone, the hidden fleet remained, maintained, upgraded, ready. Just in case anyone ever forgot.